I'm Jennifer Walsh. I'm Dean of the College of Environmental Design, and John asked me to say a few words about the trajectory of the cafe in Worcester Hall. Now, when Worcester Hall was designed and opened in 1964, how many know where Worcester Hall is? Everybody, good. It's way over there. When it was opened in 1964, it did not have a cafe. It had what was on the plans something called an exhibit room, but that actually, they didn't have the funds to build it out, and so it sat there. And eventually, during the anti-war movement period, students took the space over and started providing food for all the students that were silkscreening posters, anti-war posters in Worcester Hall, which ultimately got Worcester Hall closed. But in any event, that started a tradition of providing bagels and sandwiches and soup out of the first floor of Worcester Hall. Eventually, in the mid-'80s, it was, or early '80s, it actually was taken on by Cal Dining and became a place on campus for the provision of food for students. And at that time, there was very, very little food available in that part of the campus. So that is the beginnings of the cafe. That also means that it really isn't designed as it was never designed as a restaurant space, and that has limited what we could do there. The current situation, there's about, I think it's more than 2,000 sales a day during the academic year. That's a lot of people coming through a very limited space. The food options at the present time are limited, partly because of the facilities, the cooking facilities. The space was designed in 1984 and really hasn't had a lot done to it since then. The service is very much in the tradition of a dining hall rather than a kind of restaurant. The cafe has pretty major impacts on Worcester Hall because all the people coming in and out every day, using the lobby, using the restrooms, and so on. The CED community, because of the style of food, it's very student-oriented, and it's often very crowded, they tend to avoid the cafe. And for me as a dean, that's really important because I see this space as crucial to the kind of social heart of a college community, a place where students and faculty get together, talk, interact, work on projects together. And right now, that's not what happens. And lastly, revenue has not been generated for the college out of this enterprise. So we started planning to change the situation in 2009 when I arrived, and I felt, looking at the situation, that a redesigned cafe was very critical to changing the college culture. The next year we held a charrette with students, faculty, and Cal Dining. And I know Sean's here, and Sean played a big role in helping us think about what the restaurant could be like. The following year, we created a vision for space, what the space might look like, and what the menu might look like. And the space, as I said, has some constraints, and so it actually needs some significant modification to be a I think, more successful restaurant. And then in the same year, we embarked with Cal Dining on A&E studies, architecture and engineering studies of infrastructure costs, what it would take to change the look and feel of the physical space of the restaurant and what kind of food options might arise from those changes. Later, in the early part of 2012, there was a decision to open up this opportunity for the cafe to third-party vendors. And so we kind of stepped back from the architecture and engineering, and we did an RFP for third-party vendors as well as Cal Dining. And right now, after receiving those responses from various vendors, we are working to finalize a partnership with a vendor. What's the new vision? A new entrance for the building that incorporates the cafe, the exterior wall, which made sense for an exhibit space where you don't want a lot of windows, but for a cafe, having no space to the outside doesn't make a lot of sense. So exterior wall open to our large patio, ventilation and some modern kitchen equipment, and a clean, modernist aesthetic for the design. The concept, fresh, sustainable food, high-quality coffees and tea, and selected wine and beer options.
Oh, good.
Oh, yes. I know where you're going to be at 5 o'clock every evening. No martini, so. Delivery, kind of a counter plus system that is also used in other places on campus. An outdoor cart to serve very fast moving students, because Worcester Hall really sits on a highway of students coming down College Avenue, coming into campus. And also patio dining, making that patio all that it can be, because it's fairly large, it's quite nice, but it is very underutilized. So what's the draft financial model? We're planning to finance the tenant improvements via a combination of donations from alums, some money from startup money from the college, and loans if necessary. But the idea is not to have a lot of investors that then are with you for the entire project, but in fact have a model in which the tenant, the owner, quote unquote owner, CED, owns the tenant improvements free and clear within a relatively short period of time. That allows the tenant vendor to pay more in rent. And we expect gross revenue in this kind of 2.5 or maybe a little bit more per year, and revenue generation estimated at $200,000 to $300,000. That may be optimistic, but I think that 200 is probably not is fairly realistic. So that's where we're heading with this project. And what have we learned so far? I mean, we're not there yet, but it's labor intensive. It took a lot of thinking and effort on the part of the people working on it, both the facilities folks and my staff. The architecture and engineering issues are complicated with an older existing building that is made up entirely of concrete. There's clearly a need for risk capital. We've invested a lot of time and staff time already, but we're also going to have to contribute to the cost of making the space attractive to the tenant. And I guess one of the biggest take-home lessons for especially the academics in the room, and that is don't try to do it alone. I think the College of Environmental Design has been hugely blessed, not only by working with the real estate staff, Bob Hathaway, Helen LeVay on campus, but also one of our alums, Bob Lalonde, who's here today, that has just provided invaluable experience, guidance, advice, and actual just participation on the team. Because I don't know about others in the room, I wasn't trained to figure out how to attract retail vendors anywhere. And so it's complicated, and you have to read the landscape with a tuned, careful, experienced eye. And so I think we have folks like Bob and others on campus that are hugely experienced and can help with these kinds of projects, and I know that this help is being used for other parts of the endeavor, like Sproul Plaza and athletics. So, there you go.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks. That's great.